Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday. Great to have you all along. Love again the pregame chatter going on. Caleb, appreciate those kind words. I'm encouraged to have you. And what you can't see that I can see is that your parents are on Facebook and they say hello to you. So maybe you guys should talk more directly sometime. Darren thinks that chocolate is a new covenant blessing. Yeah, my wife would definitely agree with you. That's great. Good to have you all with us this morning. So there's a lot going on in this world of ours, huh? A lot going on. We have so much to talk about. And I want to give it a shout out to Darren, who's on here today, and ADL, who did a X Spaces. If you didn't see my post there, by the way, if you're on X, you should follow me, and I'll follow you. And well, I won't go on my whole spiel about X. I'm pro X because I'm thankful for Elon Musk and free speech and all that. We'll save that for another time. But if you look at my timeline, you can see an interview or a discussion that ADL and a couple other guys did with Darren. Darren is our resident Septuagint expert. I didn't know that until listening to that Spaces. It was really informative, very good, and it's spurred me on. I'm going to check out the Qumran book you mentioned. Anyway, I've been reading a lot more in the Septuagint as of late, as you know, and Zechariah and Haggai and so on. And one of the things that reading in a different translation does is it kind of breaks you out of your normal understanding. You know, I've been reading the NAS. I read it most of my quote unquote professional ministry and that kind of thing. And I know the Old Testament and the NAS quite well. Been reading it in the Septuagint. One of the things that's been leaping out at me is how active the Lord is in the events of the world and in our lives. And of course, I would have always said that. We talk about God's providence, and in Reform circles where I spent so much time, we talk about his sovereignty and he decrees everything. They love to use that terminology, which is not quite what the Bible says about it. And the more I am forced to slow down and look at the Greek in the Old Testament, I see just God is active and interactive with the world and the world's events and our individual events. He's doing stuff. And so as we observe what's happening in our lives and in a broader view, the Lord is doing stuff. And I, at least, have to continue to be reminded of that. So I want to talk today about some of the stuff that God is doing. Or that he's involved with, I should say. Think about, right now we've got the fires in California. Are any of you in California? I don't see Edgar on here so far. I don't think he's. Well, I don't know, Edgar. If you jump on here while we're talking, where are you in relation to the fires? Anybody else nearby? I remember very vividly. 12 years ago, 13 years ago, we had fires back to back here in Colorado Springs. The first summer, the fire came over the Front Range, which, we were used to seeing and smelling fires in the forest many, many, many miles away. But I'll never forget the night we went to sleep and saw the glow just over the Front Range here in Colorado Springs. And then the next day it came over the mountains, and we began to wonder, how far is this going to reach my house? Is it going to burn down the whole city? Next year we had in the forest here, we had fire, hundreds of homes burned, not thousands like in California. Anyway, it is a sobering occurrence, to be sure. We would just sit hour after hour watching the news, and it was the same news. There was no way to stop the fire, and the same kind of reports. But you're stuck. Life doesn't continue for a while. That kind of thing. So I pray for those in California. The Lord would have mercy on them. Stephen Frost, you're in Los Angeles. Okay, are you nearby? How far out are you? I'm glad to hear that you are okay. May the Lord protect your property and, of course, your family and safety, and may give you wisdom. There is a wisdom needed to know when it's time to leave, because you don't want to just get up and leave your home. So anyway, so that's going on. Think about fascinating. This week we've had Wesley Huff and Mel Gibson on Joe Rogan. Wesley Huff being a very articulate, scholarly, educated young apologist, and he's talking to Joe Rogan about the death and resurrection of Jesus and the trustworthiness of the Scripture and of the truth of Christ. We have Mel Gibson, who is I forget if he's about to or has completed the Passion of the Christ Part 2, where he's going to deal with the resurrection, telling Joe Rogan that he doesn't believe in evolution and that the resurrection of Christ is a real event. I mean, who would have thought? Joe Rogan, I mean, is there a bigger platform? Certainly he's in the top, few in the world of followers and listeners. And in the same week, we have people talking about the real resurrection of Jesus, not just a one religion's view, but people saying, no, this is real, and there's historical evidence. That's awesome. That's awesome. Pray for them. Pray for Rogan. Pray that this would continue. I think it's fantastic. And then you got other things like Trudeau resigning, although interesting to see what all that's going to be about and how quickly that's all going to come to pass. But you got Trump wanting to buy Greenland and make Canada a state. Maybe Caleb and Ron and Teresa maybe we'll be part of the same nation here before too long. Wouldn't that be something? Anyway, there's a lot going on, and as I continue to read the Scripture, I'm just reminded the Lord is at work, and He's not simply executing a decree. That's not how the Bible lays this out. He is doing things. He's responding to prayer of His people. He's building His kingdom. He's crushing His enemies, all those kind of things. So I want to preface the main topic here just with those thoughts. Stephen says he's 5 miles from, lots of structures in between. That's good. So it sounds like you're safe. Martha says, my daughter is a national forest fighter out of Canyon City. Is that right? All right. So was she around during the fires that we had here? Was she part of that? William David says, Mel Gibson's house burned while he was on Joe Rogan. Yeah, I think I saw that. That's great. Caleb's all for becoming a state. So Ron and Teresa, that's hilarious. Okay, so there's a lot going on in the tech world. Do any of you follow things like CES that's going on this week? I've just called it CES for so long. I forgot. Is it Consumer Electronics Show? Something like that. It's a big event every year. So Apple always has their big shows that, especially back in the Steve Jobs days, just sort of dominated the technology landscape, and all the attention went there. And especially once the iPhone was revealed, people just tuned into that. And then there was the CES, which didn't get as much press, and it wasn't as impactful in terms of garnering our attention. But it's getting a lot of attention this week, rightfully so. There's some really amazing stuff being revealed there. I'm just curious, are any of you techies at all that appreciate that kind of stuff? I saw smart glasses in one of the videos. Would you know this is coming? I mean, maybe you've seen Apple's Vision Pro, and it looks like it's a ways down the road before it becomes useful to most of us and affordable to most of us. But this kind of thing is going to accelerate. My wife was getting new glasses the other day, and as we were in the eyeglass store, LensCrafters, I think, they had a display there with smart glasses, and you could put them on and try them. And it's just the very beginning, and I wouldn't spend my money on what they were offering, but I was able to talk to it. It would talk back to me and give me information, and you could, hone in with just looking at something. And these glasses are going to continue to do what the Vision Pro is doing, where you can just look at something for a second, and it will take that like a click, or you can do a gesture with your hand and open up a web browser or give you information on what that is. Think about how that's going to change everything as those smart glasses become commonplace. It's not that far away. It's happening, and it's going to be very, very useful. I saw one that really fascinated me, the holodeck. If you think of Star Trek, we're getting close. I mean, how often do you use FaceTime or something like that? Imagine interacting with your loved ones or friends with a hologram. Imagine the impact on education. Just ponder that for a minute. I'm thrilled with where I see all this going. I hope the Trump administration will do what they say they're going to do and send education to the states, take the federal government out of it. So that frees up in good states. And as good states grow better in this, it'll put pressure on corrupt states. And then they'll have to, those guys will be voted out and we'll get some better folks in. And long term I think back to our homeschool co-ops when we were homeschooling our children when they were young. It was great to meet in buildings once a week to do that kind of thing, but to have an expert in a field there in a hologram form and able to show you videos and pictures and other kinds of media of what they're teaching, and your kids sitting there in your home. There's just so many things. Have a doctor show up in your house on a hologram kind of thing, and the training, and on and on and on. I mean, it's coming. It's coming. The technology is so close. AI and compute, it's just coming. I've been fascinated by this. Take a look at some of your comments real quick. And Reed says, good morning from Maryland. Welcome. Have we talked before? It's good to have you with us. Yes, the CES products are something else. Yeah, this year in particular, it seems. It's a different level. Christian Cross says people are going to be running into walls with those smart glasses. Well, that's probably true. But people run into walls now with the dumb glasses, don't they? Caleb's still waiting for the light speed. Yeah. Who knows? Frightening with unregulated control, and people will buy right into it. Yeah, I'm not as cynical as some as that. I think it's good. I'm looking at it as the blessing of the Lord. Yes, we need to, like with all technology, we need to have the government do its job in protecting its citizens from wickedness. But I'm choosing, I think it's going to be good. The net is going to be good. So anyway, some of you might be frightened by it. I'm not frightened. In this case, I'm not cynical. So sometimes I am. Anyway, so a couple things that are particularly impactful in my mind are going to be soon. Did you see Elon Musk did an interview with somebody? It was a very casual sort of one-on-one FaceTime kind of interview or Zoom or whatever. And he said full self-driving is going to be statistically better than human driving by the end of the Q2 this year. That's just, 6 months away, less than. Have you given due thought to the positive impact of full self-driving? If you have taught your children to drive and given them keys to a vehicle at 16 years old, you know what it's like when they leave the house the first time on their own. I remember distinctly that event with all three of my children. I was very pro-driving for them. You've heard me talk about this. They all got jobs before they were 16, and that was to teach them lots of things, but in part to be saving up money so that they could afford a car and insurance right away, because I wanted them to be moving toward independence and take responsibility and be able to have a job and function in the world that way. So they all got their licenses pretty early, comparatively. Not as early as I did. I got my license on my 16th birthday. I couldn't wait, but so many teenagers today, it seems like they're happy to wait for years. Anyway, so all my kids were driving, and it was a scary thing the first time they took the car away without me in the car with them, right? And I was persuaded that my kids were good drivers. Otherwise, I wouldn't let them go. But I'm not persuaded that all the other people out there are good drivers. Plus, there is something about just, even if they are smart, responsible young folks, you make mistakes. In your first endeavors of anything, you make mistakes. And so the thought of, it was just always a relief when they came home, until they had some history there of going and coming without incident. Full self-driving, autonomous driving is going to change all of that, and it's going to happen quickly. And with the Trump administration and with Elon on the Doge, which, I don't question his motive as far as what's best for the nation, but there's also it helps his cause greatly to be having a voice into the regulation. It's coming, and the world's going to be a safer place. The U.S. is going to be safer as the autonomous cars are driving. Now, I know the cynics are going to say, the government's going to be able to shut it down, all that. Yeah, sure. They already can do just about whatever they want to. That's why we have to vote the right people in and expose all the wickedness and pass the right laws and that kind of thing. But, yes, I will grant there is a possible negative side to all this. But everybody talks about that. I'm focusing on the positive benefit. And I think it's going to be tremendous, because if you've seen some of the videos, maybe some of you experienced this, the full self-driving already maneuvers in dangerous circumstances far better than most humans can. So I'm excited, and there's all kinds of benefits to that, and it's soon. It's coming soon. He also said in that interview that Optimus, the robot that Tesla's making, they're going to be using thousands of them in the Tesla factories by the end of this year, and then produce, I forget, was it 100,000 next year? Anybody see that? And then like 500,000 the year after. I think we are significantly underestimating the impact that is going to have in the world when there are hundreds of thousands of robots capable of doing so much. I would encourage all of you, and this will be true when we talk about AI here in a minute as well. I would encourage you to consider how robot and AI can impact your life positively, but also impact your job. And for some, you might want to get ahead of the curve, if that's even possible at this point, and start thinking how might they eliminate your job, and see what you can be doing now to prepare for something new. Get ahead of it. Be proactive in this. Don't be reactive. And again, for some, it's too late. This is how society works. This is how technology has always worked. With every advance in technology, there will be a significant portion of the workforce that lose their jobs. As far as society goes, that's a plus. That's a good thing. For the person who loses their job, that's, of course, a bad thing. But we've seen this coming if we've been paying attention. And even now, I would say it's worth everybody considering, how is this going to impact my job, and do I need to get some education, some training, start looking for something different? I just think it's wise to give forethought to that. And it's coming. And robots are going to change everything. And assuming that the cynical view is not true, assuming that AI and robots don't team together to destroy everything, it's going to be good. There's the productivity and the benefit to all the world and humanity is really high. But yes, there's always the potential downside. Leafcat says, yes, plenty of good can come from it. I saw a podcaster yesterday questioning AI, and she received what I thought was an HRM type response. She believed, oh, you're talking to Caleb, yeah. John says, if they can run a NASCAR race with autonomous drive cars with zero accidents, I may buy into it. I mean, I think that's a done deal. Yeah, I don't see why would that be a problem. Steven says, my job is 100% safe. AI would help it a lot, though. Yeah, and that's coming. So my wife is an event planner for a local business, and they just got trained this week on Copilot, which is the Microsoft thing, right? Yeah, I'm an Apple fanboy from way back. I have never cared much for Microsoft stuff, but she uses it there at work, and they got trained on Copilot, and it became very clear. One of her tasks is when they have a group come on the property, she has to assign dozens and dozens, sometimes hundreds of attendees to rooms. Well, AI is going to, what now takes hours, AI is going to make that moments, right? And all kinds of things like that, which will make it so much more efficient and perfect. Whereas humans make mistakes. They're not aware of all the information. So they didn't know that house cleaning said that room can't be used. They probably could know. If you got good systems in place, you could know, but sometimes things fall through the cracks. But AI is going to know everything. And that kind of thing was just crazy. So that brings me to the personal event I had just last week. So I saw on X, I saw someone talking about this app called Simple AI. Any of you used Simple AI? Do you know what that is? Have you heard of it? So they describe themselves as what Siri should be. I love that, and I think that is a great way to phrase it. If you are less optimistic than I am about AI's functionality, if you've never really thought about it and you use Siri, you're probably going, come on, Siri seems to be getting dumber every year. Oh, I just turned her on and now she's going to yell at me. Right? Siri I'm shocked. I got to quit saying it out loud. The Apple AI, I'm shocked at how bad it is. And even all the big stink about the most recent Apple Intelligence, it's just not impressive. And I don't know. I hope they rebound and eventually catch up. But if you think, oh, that's where we're heading with AI, is something like that, don't be fooled. There are many organizations, companies working on some fantastic stuff. So anyway, came across this Simple AI. It is a personal assistant, and mine is named James. I don't know if everyone's named James, but mine is. So that's why in my thumbnail I said you may get a call from my personal assistant, James. It's free for the kind of use that I will use it for. So I downloaded it, gave it a prompt. The first prompt was set a tire rotation at Discount Tire before 3 p.m. this afternoon. And he asked me what number I would like the call back to be, and if there was a specific time before 3 that I wanted. I said no. And then I hit go. And about 2 minutes later, I got a text from Discount Tire telling me that they had an appointment set up for 1:30 this afternoon for tire rotation. Then the Simple AI sent me a transcript of the interaction. So it called and said, I would like to set up a tire rotation this afternoon for a Nissan Xterra. The guy had no clue he was talking to an AI. He said, great. What time would you like to come in? And he gave 4 options. And as James, my assistant, was starting to talk, he said, "Oh, sorry, no, I can't do that. I was wrong about these 2. Your options are 12:30 and 1:30, I think." And so James said, I'll take the 1:30. He said, great. Are you still at this number? And that was the number I gave him. And he said, yep, that's me. And he said, great. We'll see you at 1:30 this afternoon for a tire rotation. All that, I was lifting weights. I just gave it the prompt. I'm lifting, and I got, James set this up. So then I was taking my wife to a Rhapsody in Blue concert at the orchestra that night, and I decided, we're going to go to dinner. So I said, call this restaurant downtown and set up reservations for 5:45 p.m. for party of four. We were going with some friends, and so again, I get the transcript of this interaction. It calls and says, and gets the probably the AI on the restaurant's end. For reservations, press 1. So James knew to press 1 and went to reservations, said, I'd like to make a reservation for 4, 5:45. Interaction with this young gal. Clearly she didn't know. She was talking to AI. It was interesting as she was stuttering and back and and very inarticulate, and yet James interacted with her perfectly, and he verified 2 or 3 times just to be sure, because just to be sure you have us down for party 4 at 5:45 tonight. And I think that's because she was so inarticulate and mumbling around that it knew to verify. So with one prompt, again, while I'm lifting, one prompt, and I have dinner reservations for my wife and me and another couple. So then I called the guy that we were going with that night, he and his wife, and he didn't know anything about this. And so my assistant, James, called him. Now with Friends, it announces itself as my assistant. So I've done this with a few people now, and I'm kind of combining stories here to symbolize it. But hi, this is Doug Gooden's assistant, James, and he would like to know, what are you planning to wear to the concert tonight? What are you and your wife going to wear? And also want to let you know that we have made reservations at 5:45 at this restaurant, and just looking forward to a great evening together. So my friend gets this voicemail. I think in that case I forget if he answered that one or another one. And it was also that day my son's birthday, and he was out of town, so I had my assistant James call him. Hi, this is Doug Gooden's assistant. And first of all, he wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Secondly, he's saying we will miss you at the New Year's Eve party tomorrow night. And he wanted to know when your flight gets back and what you want to do to celebrate your birthday when you get back. Now, of course, I would not have my assistant call my son for all that, but it was fun to play around with it. And he got all that information. This is going to change everything. It was so articulate, so conversational. I could go and listen to the voicemails, and it didn't sound like your typical AI. And I think about customer service. How many times have you called into a customer service, maybe your cell phone company or something, and you have to wait forever to click around here and there, and so often they just don't know? Now, T-Mobile, I will say, that's who we use. They're getting much better. But I remember just a couple of years ago, they were just ignorant of the policies and the technology and so on. To have AI know everything, to give you the right answer, and to understand what you're saying, and to interact with you, it's fantastic. I mean, yesterday I was working on a spreadsheet and a formula for something I was trying to calculate, and I'd grabbed this one. The details don't matter that much, but I grabbed this fairly complex mathematical formula to try to determine something, and I couldn't get the result I wanted. So I went to Grok and I said, "Hey, this author has given this mathematical formula to achieve this end, and I'm not getting what I want here." And Grok we interacted back and forth. Well, this and this and this. Yes, here's the formula. Here's how it's supposed to work. And there was one mathematical symbol that was different in what Grok gave me than what was in this book. And so I played around with Grok's symbol. I thought, could it have been an error in the book? Doesn't make sense, but maybe. And it still wasn't working out. So I told Grok, I said, okay, so what you told me is not exactly the same from this book. And Grok said, yes, you are right to point that out. The difference is because of this. I was giving you this kind of thing, but if you're going to use his strategy, you should use exactly his formula. So if you do this, it'll bring this result. And I changed that one thing, and it gave me exactly the result I was wanting. And there's one other nuance to it. I was using a negative number, but it needed to calculate an absolute number. And Grok said, and by the way, to make this negative, the absolute value, just put ABS in the spreadsheet. It's crazy. And think about medical records. So AI is going to know all the information that is out there. Every book, every medical journal, the websites. I mean, maybe Grok, maybe already does. You combine that with the holodeck and all. I mean, the medical world is going to be turned upside down. Every world is going to be turned upside down. Think about the possibilities. Ann says, "Wow, would be nice to make MD apps this way." What's MD? Sorry, I don't remember what I was saying. MD, that medical, or what do you think there? Caleb says, "Just wait till AI has to wait on hold like we do, and it'll quit." Yeah, I think those days are just about over. Scott says, "This is crazy awesome." It really is. It's going to change everything. If you haven't tried Simple AI, which I'm assuming you haven't because I don't think anybody indicated you've seen it, check it out. I intend to use it at least for making appointments for just about everything in the future. I don't like, to do this with friends other than just for fun, but I could see it like with our home fellowship. If I wanted to quickly gain a response on some event that we're talking about, I could see using it for that, just to quickly disseminate information and that kind of thing. I don't know. Ann says doctor appointments. Yeah. Well, and I'm saying it's going to, so the simple AI for doctor appointments will be fantastic, but I think doctor appointments are going to be reduced. I think, one of the things that we've talked about this, I'm talking about cynics. I am very cynical regarding medical, the whole big pharma, big medicine, that kind of thing. Certainly does not mean that every doctor is corrupt or anything like that. There are always exceptions, and there are good people. But even I had this conversation with someone recently who has a friend in the medical field, and even if intentions are good, if they're trained in the system, they're just human beings. Doctors are just people. And if they're trained in a certain system, that's what they know. They're going to typically gravitate toward what they were trained in. And it's hard. Think about what it's been for me to move away from traditional model church and Reformed theology and systematic theology, because that's what I was trained in. It just doesn't happen overnight. To be open to the fact that maybe there were some biases in the training that I need to look elsewhere and those kind of things. So, yeah, all right. I'm not going to go down that path too far, but it's going to disrupt everything. Too big to not be credibly regulated. Well, why couldn't you just use AI to regulate it? I don't think that has to be true. Alexander says, "I'll have to start thinking of names for my AI assistant." Yeah. And this is just the almost beta form. So there are a lot of features it doesn't have yet, but it's free. I think the free version currently anyway, you can make unlimited calls to friends and up to 50 businesses a month on the free plan. I think my son's lawn care company, and for him to be able to call his clients and have his assistant call the clients for certain things, the time that'll save him. Ron says, "My doctor used AI for diagnosis for me yesterday." Interesting. So instead of being threatened by it, your doctor is embracing it. That's fantastic. Alexander says, Doug, what is your opinion on pastors using AI for sermon prep? Well, you probably won't be surprised to hear I'd love to see us get away from sermon prep because I don't think sermons are the best way to teach and learn. But for those who are in sermon prep, depending on what you mean by that, to have an AI write the sermon, so again, this is just off the cuff thinking. Okay, I haven't thought this through, but just responding to your question. Most pastors, when they prepare for a sermon, they read lots and lots of commentaries. And they form what they're going to say from those commentaries. Okay? So that's the way everybody does it. That's why I've been saying for so long now, pastors are trained and encouraged to study the writings of men, and you're going to read the commentaries from your religious tradition, your Christian tradition, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Reformed, whatever. And you're going to draw from those commentaries and put it in your own words. But for the most part, you are preaching what you've collected, grabbed from the commentaries. That's limited usually to your tradition and to your finances, right? How many commentaries can you afford? And your time. How much time do you have to read lots of commentaries? To have AI that has read every commentary, and if you give it the right prompts, you're going to get a broader output from that. So then to have AI write the sermon, is it that much different if AI writes it and you tweak it than you borrowing from the commentaries and writing your manuscript? I don't know. It's an interesting question to think about. And that, of course, might just lead to why not just have AI as be the preacher, right? So anyway, I don't know. I will say in my own study of things, like as I was listening to Darren talk about the Septuagint, and he brought up some different texts and things, I entered into Grok and said, okay, tell me more about the manuscripts that lie behind the NETS translation and the Brenton translation, which is Darren's preferred translation of the Old Testament in Greek. And the information was fantastic. So just for general study of things, to understand things, it's great. I've done some pretty detailed Greek study with Grok. I've asked very detailed biblical questions from Greek and textual criticism wise and so on. And Grok has been so far right on. Things that I knew the answer to and wanted to see what it give me, I've been duly impressed. Leaf says, I pray daily for discernment. RM says, Doug, have you listened to or do you know Tom Wadsworth? He talks about sermon preps not being scriptural. Do not know that name. No, I haven't. And that just raises the whole question. We don't see sermons in the New Testament. If you're new around here and haven't seen, I did a whole live stream series called The Church, just kind of walking through all these things. We don't have long form lectures from elders to the churches in the New Testament. The word preaching is almost always proclaiming to unbelievers, is proclaiming the gospel. We have teaching, but in our current lecture form and sermon prep and all that, that's an add-on, not a biblical thing. Nevi says, I would really like to see the response that you get from the AI when you ask it to pray for you, specifically the response from God. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it? Ayers says AI is great for finding where what I know is there in the Bible. It probably could have helped me say that better. Right? Yeah. I mean, again, it knows it's better than it's going to displace so many of our Bible programs, right? As far as searching, um, I did this when we were going through the one another passages with our home fellowship last fall. Uh, I went to Grok one morning instead of Accordance Bible software, and I said, okay, Grok, look up this Greek word in the New Testament and show me everywhere it's translated one another. And boom, it just did it. And then I said, all right, give me every occurrence of this word in the New American Standard Bible and in the ESV. And it knows, right? It has assimilated all of those translations, and it's there. It's crazy. Did I tell you? I was telling somebody recently, and I'm going to get the details wrong here because it's fading, but just, I don't know, a couple months ago or so, when I was preparing for getting into Revelation and live stream, somewhere along the line, I came across a theory on the dating of Revelation that. I found some web results. I can show. Did you hear that? That's Siri. Siri, be quiet. I didn't even say her name, and she came on and started telling me something. Anyway, it had something to do with the dating of Revelation or whatever, and it was an obscure scholar, never heard of, in like the 1800s, and the book was written in German. And I did the Google search and tried to find, and I went to Amazon seeing if somebody had translated it into English, and there was just no information. So I went to Grok and I said, summarize for me this author's strongest arguments for an early dating of Revelation. And it spit out like 5 paragraphs. I couldn't find any reference. That's not true. I found a couple of references to the German on Google, but it was not helpful. And I couldn't find it on Amazon or anything. And Grok knew it because it had been, I guess, somewhere digitized. It would have to have been digitized if Grok knew it, right? Well, it was fascinating. Or maybe, I don't know where Grok got its information, but it was fascinating. So yeah, it's going to help us study and help us articulate and write our posts better. That's good. Yeah, Leaf, that's exactly right. Eddie says, Tom Wadsworth did his dissertation about New Testament church practice. His conclusions are along the same lines as yours on most subjects. Interesting. Yeah, good. The Bible app is awesome for that. You can just start searching. Yeah, cool. John says, couldn't AI spit out the best translation of the Bible, or is there a best translation? Yeah, it's a great question that gets to translation theory. The short answer is, if you've done any kind of translating in anything, it's like my daughter, who's a ASL translator, runs into this all the time. There's never a direct one-to-one translation from any language to another language. Right? Language just isn't that static. It takes on nuances, and that's why we have thesauri, because there are several different words that express a similar meaning. And in translation, you have to pick the one that you think best suits the context. And that's going to be dependent on your assumptions that you're bringing to the context. So yeah, there will never be a perfect translation because every translator is biased. Grok will be biased in some ways as well. It's programmed. Grok is programmed, so you just can't get away from it. So no, AI will never spit out a perfect translation. I don't think. Yeah, RM, Grok is X's versions. So Musk started his own AI company because he founded OpenAI, which Sam Altman and those guys are using, and he's convinced they're going corrupt. And actually, that's been exposed, right? So he wants an AI that's pursuing truth. So he created XAI, and you could get it on the X app. And just yesterday, I think the standalone app, and it's free. So you can download, at least on iOS, you can download the Grok app and use it if you have an iPhone. Eddie says, it's interesting. Many people independently seem to be coming to similar conclusions about church life. Agreed. Yeah, it's happening. It's cool. All right. Well, that's enough for today. Look into all this stuff, and it would be worth your time. This is the kind of transformative time period like the internet. Some of you don't remember pre-internet days. It changed everything, and AI and robotics are going to change everything at a higher level and a more rapid rate than the internet has. So we need to run into it, I think, and use it. So that's my thoughts. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we will see you back here on Monday to continue Revelation. We'll get to the first letter to the churches. Have a great one. Grace and peace to you.